Welcome to another episode of Unpacking the Brand. My name is Randy Kessler, as always, joined by Ken Terrio, CEO of TheRiot agency. Here we are deep into summer, Labelexpo on the horizon. How's it going, Ken?
It's going good. I got a couple days. Well, actually, today I got one more day of summer, and the kids go back to school. So we're looking pretty good right now.
School's starting already. Yeah, I saw a map, and it had like the southern half of the U.S. They all start early to mid-August, and then kind of as you get further north, they start later. Our kids go back the 20th and the 25th, so different schools this year. But
yeah, okay,
yeah.
I think we get there's one less. Like we don't get a winter or spring vacation or something like that. So there's one less week in there that tends to not, we don't have. So we go to school earlier and then get out earlier. There's some, I don't know.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Did you have a summer vacation? I thought I saw you posting something about Disney or?
Yeah, we did Disney a couple times.
Sounds stressful. It was a trip. When it's children, it's a trip, not a vacation, right? Yeah.
I use that all the time, Randy. Like, I don't know how many years ago you said that. Like, you were like, it's not a vacation, that's a trip. And I was like, You're 100% right, because I'm like, this is a family trip. It's still enjoyable.
My wife came up with that one, but yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. No, so no vacation.
We are off to Yellowstone on Saturday. We're doing the road trip to Yellowstone. So that'll be fun. That'll be an adventure. And then they start school shortly after that. So
very cool.
Yeah. Good times. All right. So
do we got?
This week we got Chelsea McDougall, my friend and colleague working at Labels and Labeling, kind of to preview Labelexpo Europe and all things with Barcelona and what's happening there. And
I love Chelsea. It's going to be a great episode. And she's just a wealth of knowledge, and she's fun.
Totally.
I think everyone will enjoy it.
Absolutely. Excited about it. So let's go ahead and get to our conversation with Chelsea.
All right. Sounds good.
In a world where brands compete for attention, where innovation meets strategy, and where storytelling drives success, join Ken Terrio and Randy Kessler as they dive into the world of branding, business, and beyond.
Joining us on today's episode is Chelsea McDougall, the editor of Labels and Labeling magazine, content director for Labelexpo Global Series, friend and colleague. How's it going, Chelsea?
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me. First of all, let me just say, I've been so excited about this. I love what you guys are doing with this pod. So I think this might be my first podcast interview too. So I am just really jazzed to be here today. So thanks for having me.
Yep. No, we're super excited to have you and excited to talk about Labelexpo and all the great things that you guys are doing over there. So I think it's gonna be a great show.
Absolutely. And before we jump into that, Chelsea, why don't you give us a little background on your career? You haven't always been in the printing industry, kind of a unique background, maybe famous, maybe you're on TV at one point in time, but just bring everybody up to speed on how you got to where you are today.
Oh my gosh, people love this. Do you want me to tell that story?
Exactly.
Yes, please.
So definitely haven't been in the print industry my entire life, but I've always been in journalism in my professional career. So I started working as a crime reporter, and I did that for, like 10, 15 years before moving to Labels and Labeling. And I loved it, but it kind of got to a point where I was like, yikes, this is a little bit time to move on. So I was looking for something new. Literally never thought about how a label was made in my life before that, right? It's one of those things that you just sort of take for granted. And I found the job posting for Labels and Labeling, and it had 3 words on the job listing. It said, must love travel. And I was like, oh, okay, I like to travel. What is this? I literally had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. But yeah, before that, I was on Anderson Cooper, which is just so silly. I mean, it's like, if that's my 15 minutes of fame, then so be it. But basically the story there is I was covering a case and it kind of got some national media attention, and CNN got on their radar, and they didn't have any local reporters on the scene yet. So my boss had called me and he's like, hey, do you want to go at Anderson Cooper at 7:00? And I hang up the phone. I was like, yeah, sure. Played it cool. In my mind, I'm panicking. I call my sister who lives the next town over. I was like, you have to get as close to the scene as possible. You have to bring me my makeup bag. That's all I cared about. was how I look. But no, it was just a really quick interview with Anderson Coop. I mean, I like to in my head think we're best friends, and he, calls me up when he ever has a big scoop, but we're not that close.
I mean, the real question is the quality of people that you did stories about back then, are the ones now better or worse?
Gosh, there's not a lot. I will say there was not a lot of good feel-good stories that came out of the crime and court beat, which there definitely is now. And it was just a different relationship with the people with sources. I mean, you guys talk a lot about that on your pod, which I love, about the relationships in this industry. Like, before, it was a little more adversarial relationship with like cops and lawyers. It was a little fun, right? You're trying to get information out of them. But they definitely weren't inviting me to dinner and to have drinks with them or like, that sort of thing. We get invited to a lot of fun stuff now. So, but yeah, I'm very happy. I've been with Labels and Labeling now 10 years. So just, loving it.
So Labels and Labeling, talk a little bit about, for the listeners that might not know exactly what that is. What are you writing about? Who should be reading it? I mean, I work for the publication too, but I'll let you answer this one.
I would love to hear what your elevator pitch is, because when people ask me what I do now for work, it's so hard to explain. When I say I work for a magazine, but not one you'd find like in like a Barnes and Noble or a bookstore, But no, we're a global trade publication, the only global trade publication for the label and packaging industry. So we cover kind of everything in this wider world of package printing. So labels, we're covering more now about flexible packaging, a little bit more. We're kind of touching the surface of folding carton, which I imagine we'll kind of get into later because that ties into some of the things happening at Labelexpo. But we've got columnists that talk about branding and design. We've got one that talks about sales and marketing, mergers and acquisitions, and then anything technology, sustainability, anything business related. Those are kind of my favorite stories to write, are the ones that like really what makes a business tick. Why did you buy a piece of equipment and what's it going to do for you? And how'd you choose it over the sea of other options? So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what the mag's all about.
I got a question. Did Labels and Labeling, did that come in conjunction with Labelexpo? Or like, what was like, so they kind of launched at the same time, or?
I probably should know the history a little bit more, because what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? The show or the magazine? I think they kind of came around the same time, and it was kind of born out of just the label suppliers and OEMs that were at Drupa and kind of getting lost in that space of like, there's just so much to see here. I'm a very niche, market. And then Mike Fairley created the magazine. The show was also created around the same time, I want to say. But which one came first? I don't know if I could say that. I'll ask Angie, actually.
All right, awesome. Follow up. And then another episode.
Before any of us were born, put it that way, right?
Yeah, no kidding. I was dying listening to your show with like Paul Teachout in like 45 years in the industry. I'm like, it's incredible. And he's not unique. You know what I mean? I mean, he's unique, right? He's an amazing person. But you hear stories like that all the time with these people that just stick around forever. And, it's cool.
It's so true. Yeah. People might switch jobs a lot, but they still stay within this industry. They're not exiting the industry. You build these relationships. Everyone sticks around.
Yeah.
We'll get to Labelexpo Europe in a second, but I just got to nip something in the bud here because everyone always asks this question to me. Like, why don't you write about me? How do I get in the magazine? So like, just tell everybody what's the best way to get coverage in Labels and Labeling. And then we can be done with that one. And I'll send people the 30-second link to this podcast if they ever email me about it.
Yeah, I will say I won't spend too much time moaning about PR people, but something's happening with them. No, I'm just kidding. I won't dive into that. Maybe we'll off the record. No, I'm just kidding. But no, so basically the thing is about Labels and Labeling is a lot of people do ask, how to be in it. And we have really high editorial standards, to be honest. Is like, so it's just the fact if somebody wants like a profile about their company, we always have to find a news hook in some way. So did your company sell a piece of equipment or are you moving into a new market? Are you, just anything that has a news hook? And we're all trained journalists too. So we're not just like writing stories because people paid for it. Like that's one thing I do love about this industry. There's not that pay to play at all. And I'm grateful for that because I just feel like that really degrades the integrity of what everyone's doing, So like you really just have to have like a legitimate story to tell. A lot of times we can find them, we can dig into it, but just when someone's like, "Can you write about my company?" Like just cause you're like, "Well, what about your company?" What story do you want us to tell?
Yeah, but I think that's one of the things that kind of ties into the industry kind of being this global in the global market, but smaller in terms of total people, right? And that's why people tend to swap roles but stay in the same industry because there's a certain amount of technical knowledge. So if you have to curate that content, right?
Right.
Because the
Yeah.
audience is highly technical and highly involved. It's not like a lot of other industries where you have people in it for 3 or 4 years and then bouncing into another industry where you have to keep their attention, stay relevant, and if you just let any story be printed that wasn't actually that interesting, the relevancy of the publication would get devalued very quickly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you need to
And
hold
I
those standards, and I think you do
And
a
I
great
will,
job.
yeah, I will say, like, even our competitors do the same too. Like, there's not anybody out there that's doing that. And I'm like so grateful for that because it's like, oh, if they're doing it, then suddenly you have other people that are like, well, they did it. Why not? Why don't you? But I think everybody holds that standard really, really well in our industry. So I can't say the same for all other trade magazines and other industries. But in terms of what we're doing, I mean, honestly, our team is really, really just on fire
So would the
lately.
advice be just to be interesting?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
interesting creates interesting stories, which gets you into the publication.
Yeah, right. Or just think
Yeah.
about like the news hook too sometimes. I was just joking about the PR people. We have some lovely, amazing, agencies and PR people in here. But some of the story pitches we get sometimes you're like, wait, what? Like think about what that would be.
Being pushy doesn't generate results, right? Like, I
Amen.
mean, I
Yeah.
think we do PR for some organization, and it's like we're just the megaphone, right? Like you have to do something interesting, and then we
Yeah.
can amplify that message,
Right.
but we can't amplify nothing,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
important that you are just do interesting things.
Totally.
and take ownership.
And the other thing we see a lot too is like we'll send stories for fact checking, right? Like, and then people want to rewrite it, and you're like, no, this isn't
Right.
for like major revisions. That's really what that's probably the most egregious. But so it's things like that. Like you can't control the message, right? We don't pretend to be the New York Times, but you still have to respect the job that we're doing as journalists and being like, this is the quote that you said, like this is the information that you gave us. So respect that as well.
I'm always impressed within this niche industry that there's enough content to go around daily. You look on our website, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 press releases daily within the labels industry. So there's things happening, which is, job security for us, I guess. But
right. When I was interviewing for this job, I remember thinking, one, I was like, there's competing label magazines, like what? And then what am I going to write about? Right. Because I came from, you had daily deadlines. It was always feed the beast. Right. So I had my editor, you'd file this huge story that, well, what do you have tomorrow? And I was like, oh my God, give me a second to breathe, So I thought, oh, I'm going to be bored. I'm not going to have anything to write about. And like, it is completely opposite. There's so much going on in the industry every day. I mean, we just have a backlog of stories that we just, hear about or things we want to write about, companies you want to go visit. Yeah.
And I think that's also just a side effect that there are highly engaged people within the industry, right? Like it's not, people are involved in what's happening. They want to know what's going on. They want to know where the market's shifting or what other people are doing because they want to, improve. And, while there's competitiveness, I think within the space, I think it's also a friendly competitiveness, right? Because you don't know how you're going to have to partner with someone or work with them. So it's not like, a zero sum game where like, if I get something you don't get it, so people are much more collaborative and willing to share information. And so I think
absolutely. I mean, one of the pieces of advice that I got when I started, there was like 3 pieces of advice that someone gave me, and they said, 1, don't call it a sticker, 2, don't call them a printer, and 3, don't be a jerk, right? Because you don't know whether or not you might be looking for a job or you might be ready to move on to the next, or you don't know where that person's going to be in a few years. So, and the reason the stickers entertain, labels inform, but don't call it a sticker, don't call them a printer, and don't be a jerk. They didn't say the word jerk, but you know what I mean. And you can clip that.
Yeah, we could say the word they probably said and then beep it out. But Okay, so Labelexpo Europe coming up next month. First time in Barcelona, so that creates its own excitement. But on the technology side, what are some of the big trends you expect to see there?
Man, okay, so first of all, month is so scary because there's so much to do to get ready for it, right? That we're full steam ahead. I'm super excited about a new city. I think a lot of the industry is really excited about a new city. But yeah, Label Expo for us as journalists is really a barometer of the trends that are happening in a particular region, or in the case of Europe, because since it's such a global show, like the trends that are happening globally. So I always love to see not only like what people are showing and what they're launching. As you know, a lot of companies use Label Expo Europe or Label Expo Americas as kind of their launching pad for new technology. But so what people are showcasing, but also we love when we hear about show floor sales. We want to know what they bought, where it's going. I mean, a lot of that tells you what's happening in a particular region too. Like if you have a press that's going to Southeast Asia, like what's going on there, and really those conversations that we're having at Label Expo really fuel our coverage for the year ahead. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Ken, you want to follow up?
No, it's exciting. I think, is there anything, do you know anything brand new that's coming out or the?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are keeping things a little close to the vest. Like I do know that like Gallus and Durst are launching some new machinery. Neil Peter's got like a pretty interesting press that they're another publicly talking about it. You'll read about it in our next issue, but it's kind of what they're calling their like next generation of automation. So I'm actually kind of excited to see this because they're basically making ready a 4-color job as the press is running and then kind of stitching them together. And then I don't know how, I got to see it in person. Just read about it in the magazine. But while the job is running, and then it sort of has minimal waste. Pretty excited about that project with Martin Automatic, ETI, and Limo, which is kind of a working job for a label company. Limo's got some pretty interesting end-of-line automation that they are showcasing. Which basically it's kind of this robotic arm that takes the rolls off the turrets and places it into boxes for like labeling, shipping, all that stuff, just basically get it out and shipped out, which I think you guys talk a lot about on your show about the workforce issues that the industry is facing. Innovations like that are going to be pretty game changing. It's taking one of those jobs where somebody would sit there and have to label and tape those boxes and get it ready for shipped. Like now you're just having a robot arm do it. So things like that I'm pretty excited about. I love robots, actually. If anyone wants to bring me a robot to Label Expo, please do.
There was actually, remember that guy, Jenny, did you see that little like dog robot that somebody had at FTA? That was,
yes, I did.
I
did. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I also like Europe, people like blow it out of the water with their booth setups, right?
Yeah.
They do, double-decker things and these just extravagant things. You don't really see that in Chicago too much. So I'm, also pretty excited about that. And Ken, you've been on the other side of this, right? You've been an exhibitor, not in Barcelona, but in Brussels, of course. And, there'll be no shortage of alcohol consumed.
I was just going to say
on the show floor.
Ken, with that bee sting, remember that bee sting? You'd be like, it's 9 a.m. You want a bee sting? Like, no, but I will.
I remember all of those things. Those were different days. So, what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I think
Randy's
a little
older, hopefully a little healthier.
But I think Randy's right. People really put out, it's just such a global show. You see people from, I was looking at the registration the other day. There's somebody from Fiji. I'm like, I guess we got to plan a field trip.
Sounds like a converter visit in line for that one. Right?
That's what I said. So but you literally have people from all over the globe that come to this show. So it's going to be really great.
That's like the trade show atmosphere is a lot of it, especially for people that are planning it and executing it. Like you spend so much time like trying to make sure that the logistics are good, the artworks are good, like what you're there for, you have a goal. So when you get there, there's a certain amount of like just relief. You're like, like I'm here, and now like all the stuff we've been planning for. It's almost like this like a professional wedding day, right? Like you have all this time that you are planning for it, and then you're like, I just better make sure I eat some food and I don't get too drunk. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's a great analogy, Ken.
It really
is a great analogy.
It is. You're right. You're at the finish line. So now it's time to celebrate.
Yes. And you're like,
Gosh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's what brings a kind of an interesting and enjoyable experience. And then you tend to, you're productive, right? Like
Yeah.
you meet a lot of people. You just get to condense a lot of activity onto a relatively short amount of time. So it feels like there's a lot of, it just feels like there is a lot of momentum, right? And that is a momentum that brings you out of the show and helps you kind of achieve whatever organizational goals that you are, you have outside of that. So
Yeah. It's going to be a big week. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So what about like educational sessions and learning opportunities? What kind of stuff is planned on that side as the content director? You're probably deep in some of that stuff, right?
I am. I'm so glad you brought that up, actually, because this is the first time we're actually doing a conference on the show floor. We never had, and traditionally, it's the line of thinking has been like, oh, there's so much to see at Label Expo, but there is, right? There is so many press demos and press conferences, all the things, right, that are happening at a show, people to see, people to meet with. But also there's like people that come to the show that also do want to learn. So we've got an educational area on the show floor. It looks amazing. Our ops team has been doing a really great job with that. And then our content manager, conference manager, has been doing an amazing job securing speakers. So each day has a theme, and they're based on the themes of the show. And I should rewind. It's actually called The Pulse is the area. It's in Hall 7. So The Pulse each day takes on a different theme. So the first day is sustainability. So PPWR, the packaging and packaging waste regulations in Europe, is a huge topic. So the first day is going to be dedicated to that. We've got a day on flexible packaging. We've got a day on what we're calling future technologies, which is really more of your automation and your AI. And then the last day will be on folding carton and kind of exploring that. So it's interesting to see too, this kind of greater embrace of flexible packaging and folding carton from the show side, but also from just the industry as a whole, right? The show wouldn't do it if the industry wasn't already moving in that direction, but just seeing greater interest in those markets that we kind of hadn't really covered before. So pretty interesting to see. So the Pulse area is going to be very cool. There's also master classes. They fall under the Label Academy umbrella. So those are more classroom setting, really deep dive into a topic, right? So we have sessions on automation. We have sessions on folding carton, and we have a session on RFID. So those are going to be really good. The RFID in particular was really well received at Labelexpo Americas, where we first did it. So excited to see how the European audience responds to that.
How are the attendance numbers looking? For new city, I don't know if you guys have expectations or, how's it looking?
Yeah,
so far?
Really good. I mean, we've got people from Fiji, like I said, but really good. I mean, of course, looking from all over. I think there was like concern or, people were like, oh, will people travel? Because they've been so used to going to one thing. And honestly, there's so many more Americans that are coming that I think hadn't really looked at coming before, that are coming to Labelexpo Europe for the first time. So people, I think, are kind of jazzed about the city as much as they are about seeing seeing the technology and coming to the show. So the numbers are looking great, even from those countries that normally would drive to a Brussels, that they're still showing up in record numbers. So, I mean, honestly, the show's, Randy probably can talk about this too. I mean, it's looking really good.
Some of the things that people probably don't understand in terms of trade show planning is how many years ago did you guys have to select Barcelona, right? Like you made a change. Like they don't they think you end, Brussels and oh yeah, I mean, where should we do it next? Where it's not like that. Like you have years and years of planning. So how long have you guys known that you're going to be doing Brussels?
Well, yeah, at least since
Barcelona.
Yeah, I know, right? I keep doing that too, and I think people will
2.5, 3 years. Right, Chelsea.
But yeah, exactly, because we knew at the last Brussels that it was going to be the last show there. So even before that decision was made. So yeah. And the media, labels and labeling, we knew too, but we can keep a secret. So the things that you do tell us that are off the record can stay off the record.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think we heard that at a TLMI meeting or an event about the US converters, right? As Barcelona, let's take a vacation, bring the significant other, take a vacation, pop into the show for a few days. why not? Fall's a great time to visit Europe. So
Yeah. So but I think that'll be interesting to see. So I'll be looking forward to hearing more about what they were interested in, what they saw at the show and what they thought of that compared to like a US America's show, which they're really similar. Those are the two flagship shows, but they're different in a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting to see what, how they find it.
Were there any specific speakers that you were pretty excited to see, or like a panel that, people should pay particular attention to, something that kind of jumped out like, whoa, yeah, this is outstanding. Like we got to, people should check this out.
Yeah. So one thing that a project that I've been involved in a little bit was something the show did called an ambassador program. So basically, Labelexpo hand selected some industry experts to serve as ambassadors to the industry. And to the show, right? So they helped us kind of develop some of the content. They're writing some thought leadership pieces for the show that we've published in the magazine. They're doing just a lot of work in like the background. So all those ambassadors are going to be speaking at the Pulse. So that's pretty cool. So we've got an ambassador in flexible packaging. Is a guy called Chris Ellison from OPM Group in the UK. He was one of like the first label converters that really started doing flexible packaging. So he's just been incredible. He's helped write the Label Academy book on flexible packaging. I mean, just super knowledgeable. I visited them last time I was in London and just wow, what a company. We've got Steve Metcalf. I don't know if you've met him before, but he's a US-based guy, really involved with AI. So Steve actually used to work in the industry and now has kind of left. He started this an AI company. He runs a show called AI Imagine Live, I think is what it's called. And so he really is somebody who can bridge the gap that's talking to label converters about AI and how they can use it rather than just being like, oh, AI and ChatGPT and talking about it like general terms. He really is going to provide a lot of like practical insights that people are able to like take away. So getting him on the program was quite a coup. Corey Reardon, our friend from AWA, always does an amazing job talking about market stats. That's somebody you want to watch too if you're interested in knowing like how the market's looking. I mean, he's got some just great knowledge. Marius Tent, who is from C-Lab, he's going to be talking about packaging and packaging waste regulation. That's a huge sustainability initiative in the EU that's going to have a lot of broader impacts, I think, on businesses and what they need to do to comply with these regulations. So he's talking about that. And another guy called Will Parker, who is a subject matter expert in folding carton, going to be talking about that and how label converters can move into that space and how they already are and like how can you use your existing equipment or equipment that you've seen, that inline flexo to be able to, break into new markets. And then finally on the first day we have a woman she's not an ambassador, but she's one of the keynote speakers. Dr. Leila Ajaralu is going to be talking about sustainability as an innovation opportunity. So she's really good. She's given TED Talks before. She's really energetic. She comes from Australia. So she's just really, really knowledgeable and just she's going to be really great. So the Pulse is looking so good. Like if people have time to stop by, they really should.
Very cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Now, you've mentioned flex pack and folding carton quite a bit. So is there sort of a theme, or are we seeing kind of more crossover if you're a converter in folding carton or flexible packaging and they might want to get into labels, or are we seeing more of that?
What's driving that? Is that, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because at first I was like, when I heard about folding carton, but let me back up and tell a story about when I was in high school and my parents said to me, you have that choice. Would you like a pager or would you like a cell phone? And I was like, how is this even a question? I want a pager, obviously, right? So what I'm saying is that maybe don't always listen to me when it comes to like predicting where technology and trends are going. No, and
you also had a BlackBerry too, right?
Oh yeah. Loved that thing. Oh my gosh. No, but so when I first heard about it though, I was kind of skeptical, like, are people really moving into it? But then when I'm looking into it more and you're seeing, news stories about label converters that are buying FlexPack digital equipment from HP, or they're buying this inline Flexo from Edale. It's like, oh, the market is here. I don't think when people walk into Labelexpo Europe, it's going to be like in your face, there's we're a folding carton show. I don't think it's that. I don't even think you're going to see any of that wide web equipment anytime soon, right? We're talking about the equipment that they kind of already know how to use. They're talking about suppliers that they already know for like coatings, and maybe they got to learn more about materials, which was the same kind of disruption that we saw with FlexPack. They had to learn all about new materials and how to use them and how they perform. And you have to learn more about what goes in the package versus what just goes on it. So, label converters are, I don't want to say the word scrappy. That's not the word I want, but they'll take on,
Agile.
They're agile. Thank you for that. Thanks. But they will. They'll explore new ways of making money. That's why everyone's in business, right? So it's kind of interesting to see.
A lot of that demand comes from their customers saying, hey, like they have a good relationship with them and they have a need. And they're like, hey, do you do this? Right.
Totally.
And they're like, oh, no. But then that makes them feel like, okay, let me go investigate this and see if there's an opportunity for me to bring this on.
Right. They want that one-stop shop, and think about it too. I think a lot of that is driven in the pharmaceutical market, right? So you might have converters like NOSCO up in Wisconsin. They're doing literature, they're doing extended content labels, they're doing folding carton, and then they're doing flex. They're just kind of doing anything. The pharmaceutical market really drives that, I think. But we'll see like how it's received. I think I'm kind of interested to see what people think of that Edale press. They're bringing I think it's called the FL5. It's a carton press. So just to see what, how that's received and what people think of that. And like, would you bring that into your business? Are you exploring it? The numbers from Labelexpo are also showing that too. They're supporting it, right? People are saying, I'm interested in that. So it's not like this just came out of nowhere. I do think there's the learning curve, but as with anything, as with shrink sleeve, as with flexible packaging, there's a learning curve, but label converters aren't afraid of that.
So we mentioned sort of like a trend that people aren't paying enough attention to that they should be. Would you say it's that, or could it be something else?
I love that. That's a great question, Randy. I'm kind of fascinated by this idea that I'm hearing a little bit more now so with Flexo, manufacturers in particular is, Flexo's kind of at a plateau in terms of like speed and how I don't imagine it getting much faster. But now you have these Flexo OEMs that are looking at things like, what would a press look like if a robot was running it, if a robot was loading it, right? Maybe you don't need to have that area to slide out that die or whatever. Like, so I just kind of am fascinated by that. What does the future of a facility look like? I'm also really interested too, and you guys have talked about this on your pod a lot, the impact of, some of these mergers and acquisitions on the market. I'm interested in that. I think, for good or bad, but now like the buyer relationship has changed, right? You had somebody who you used to, buy all your materials from, or you used to go into their facility and you worked with this one person that was in charge of purchasing. And now you have one person who's maybe doing 10 companies. So I think that's interesting. One kind of trend that I'm interested in seeing too, and we're going to write about in a future issue, is some companies they were bought by private equity. They've waited out their non-competes, and now they're back in the industry again and cropping up with new kind of startups. So that's kind of an interesting thing that we're seeing too. So it kind of created this space for these new companies to kind of grow up. And kind of fill in some spots in those smaller startup spaces. So it's interesting to see.
It definitely is. And I think, we could have a whole conversation on private equity's role in kind of the packaging and Flexo market. But it, like you mentioned automation, do you get a lot of, do you feel like a lot of people are interested in that? Like, you mentioned a gentleman doing some stuff on AI.
Yeah.
We do a lot with AI. I hear a lot of AI. I have somewhat of like a love-hate relationship with AI because I'm interested in it, but I'm also exhausted from everything being about AI. But like we also like, you know what I mean? Are a lot of people interested from a content perspective on AI's role? Are they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think Nathan said it on when you guys talk to him, like every conference that you go to, AI sessions. I mean, it's like standing room only. I think what's interesting about AI, which I don't see a ton of that in the sessions that I'm attending, is you've got AI, but it's more for like the front of the office, right? How are you using it in sales? How are you using it in marketing? How are you using those like large language modules to, write your, email that you send out to your customers, that sort of thing. What I don't see a ton of is like, how do we use it in the back of the house, of the production, right? So that's what I'm interested in seeing. I think we're going to see some more of that at Labelexpo. AI for scheduling, AI for machine learning. I mean, machine learning has been around for a bit, but how are you kind of tying in all these data sets and kind of making it accessible to the back of the house?
Yeah, I was reading an article about how 80% of AI projects fail right now. And a lot of it has to do with like, if you don't have good structured data, it just doesn't work, right? Like and it's almost like it, I don't want to say I worry, but I try to warn people that like, if you're not doing the basics really well, like data management and, just your overall like process is mapped and optimized as much as you can, AI is not really going to fix it. You can't be like, oh, well, I've had 15 years of bad data management, but now I have AI and it's going to fix everything. It's like, it just doesn't work that way, right? Like, so it's almost like you still need to do the basics. And if you're doing the basics really well and your data is really good, then that can really be kind of like an accelerator for you. But it is not a, get out of jail free in terms of your operational excellence.
Yeah, you're right. Garbage in, garbage out. And that, so yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's interesting to see what that looks like and what the future looks like when it comes to that and how we can kind of tie those two together. Cause you're right. It is kind of like, it's a buzzword, right now. So it's like, what does that mean? Like when you say AI, what are we talking about? Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got AI FOMO because there's huge amounts of investments going into it, and we're investing a lot into it, but it's because you're kind of being told like, if you're not doing the AI thing right now, you're totally gonna miss out. Like you are like you're gonna be, and it's not. I don't want to say it's not true, but it's also not as it's not as dire. Like you still need to do the basics well. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should record a separate pod just on that. I mean, because we could probably
I think we're planning to. We got to get Steve Metcalf on. He could probably go on for hours because we saw him at the TLMI annual last year. And he was sharing slides of things that he just prompted and that were created and the different things he's using. And
I mean, it's incredible, but it's also like it's somewhere between like a parlor trick and extremely useful. And but it's good at very small things that you can solve with, a high level of accuracy. I think it's one of the things that people, maybe this is a whole other podcast, but the accuracy 100% of the time that where you can bet your business on it is not necessarily as good as you want it to be, right? Like it can be good 98% of your time, but that 2% of the time could really cause a lot of issue.
Yeah,
that it's not, right? So you have to, kind of hedge your bets against that.
No, exactly. And even things like ChatGPT, I actually find myself, I use it more than Google these days because I just feel like I get a better search result. However, I always feel like I have to kind of double check or like still kind of verify, right?
Definitely.
Just to see. Because sometimes I'll put it, do you ever stump ChatGPT? Like I get so specific. It's like, no, girl, this is not even a question.
It was like yesterday, I had to do some like, basic math. I was like, oh, like, check this. And it gave me the wrong math. And I was like, this isn't correct. And you're like, oh, good catch. It's like, good catch. That's not right.
Totally. It admits it. Like I was plugging in some like financial planning numbers and it spit something out. And I'm like, are you sure those numbers are correct? And they're like, oh, actually, just like you said, like, oh, those are wrong. It should be this. I'm like, okay, I can retire someday, maybe.
I tell my team, like, it is like really great day labor. Like, have you ever like been on a construction project or something where they have a lot of day laborers that come in and like they're, you got 25 humans showing up that have no idea what they're doing. You can tell them like, do this one thing. But every single day you have to retrain them, retell them, and recheck them. Like they'll do some movement or lifting or whatever, but like you still have to have quality control. You still have to like tell them exactly what to do, and you got to do it every single time that you use it.
Yeah. But I also don't think people should be scared of it too, particularly in my field, like in journalism. They're like, oh, it's going to replace me. And I was like, I don't think AI is going to be asking Mark Andy questions about the press that they're bringing to Labelexpo. Like, you still need a journalist like ask those questions. I mean, so it's like, I'm not afraid of it. I use it as a tool. I use it for what it is, right? But definitely not something to be afraid of. But
speed to first draft.
Yeah.
Right. And then so you shouldn't be spending less time doing it. You should just be spending more time in proofing it. Right. Where, I'm sure you get this all the time. Like, if you're, by the time you write something and you've done it 200 times and you're looking at it, like your brain can just start skipping over stuff, and you have to it is just so easy to miss stuff, where you really can spend more time proofing something, at least on the written content piece. But Anyway, let's not make this an AI.
Yeah, boring.
What I'm kind of curious is what does a day in the life of Chelsea look like at Labelexpo?
Oh gosh, man.
What do you do? Where do you
It's a lot.
You need a scooter, right?
I do need a scooter. I'm like, no, you know what? I want some L&L branded roller skates. Can you just imagine me zipping around? No, I mean, it depends really. Some people I think I remember my first Labelexpo, I had scheduled appointments. Like half hour by half hour, I was going to run around. Guess how many appointments I was able to keep? Was like less than half. It was sick because you're always running late. You get chatting with people. You underestimate how long it takes to get from point A to point B. But yeah, a lot of our stuff is we're monitoring any of the news that's come in. A lot of companies announce big deals and that sort of stuff at the show. So we're putting that together. We have a newsletter, which actually we've now transitioned to LinkedIn, which we've had a lot of success with doing that. So we're putting together that newsletter based on kind of the news coverage and things that we're seeing. We're working on press releases or press conferences. Sorry. We are, going around, and I usually have a list of people that I want to see each day. Right. And so I just try to go through that list. Europe is it's a little bit harder because the show is so big that you really put on a lot of miles. But yeah, I mean, you're just kind of walking around, interviewing, talking to people. Then you inevitably run into people that so you stop and see, how's the show? What are you finding? So it's just a lot of talking. Usually when I'm done, I go home and I lay on the couch in the dark.
Any tips for people? How are they going to get, what do you, as a veteran, are there any tips for people to get the most out of it, or even just end it without being,
Yeah. Other than comfortable shoes, right? I always say wear comfortable shoes. Honestly, who cares about, no one's looking at what's on your feet, right? So when I always see people wearing really uncomfortable, men with those tight, loafer type shoes, and women in heels, you're like, oh, please save your poor feet. But other than that, I always say plan your event. We put out this massive Labelexpo preview that's A to Z, what companies are showcasing, what technology. So plan your visit, especially with the show as big as Europe. Look at the website, look at who's coming, plan who you want to see, maybe set up meetings ahead of time if you can, or if you think you're going to keep them, or at least let them know that you're coming. I think that probably helps too. That's usually what I do. I don't say a time unless people insist on it. I try not to have a set time because I will miss it. But yeah, so I think the biggest advice I would say is just plan. I think people forget how many resources are available for planning their show, that they just kind of show up and wing it. And they're like, man, you're going to miss so much. Or once you've knocked off those things on your list, you can do what I like to call is the joy of discovery. Walk around those aisles, walk around the edge and see those booths, those smaller booths that might have something really interesting for you that you didn't plan on seeing, but you gave yourself enough time to do that.
So would a word of advice be to schedule exploring?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you can, schedule an afternoon to just walk around and see, and see what kind of trouble you can get into. Good trouble, of course, but yeah.
There'll be plenty of happy hours, that can loosen people up, and some liquid courage never.
Yes. A lot of people do
doesn't hurt people, but.
And a lot of people do nice foods on their booth, one of my favorites is a visit to, if I can shout out Armour, because they've got that nice French wine and French cheese. And I'm always over there at the end of the day having a little snack. So shout out to Armour EMAC for
there's going to be a line of people at their booth, right?
Shoot. I hope I didn't just give away a secret.
Our 17 listeners are going to be so hungry and thirsty. Yeah. Outstanding. Okay. So we always give people a chance to plug whatever it is they've got going on. So, excuse me. Anything you want to plug, where can people find you, read your stuff?
Yeah. So I would love if anybody wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn, but also connect with the magazine on LinkedIn. We've got, we've got a lot of stuff over there. We're constantly posting news. We've got a bunch of different newsletters, 3 different newsletters that we publish. An event insider that's kind of like when we go to cover an event, what we saw, what kind of our takeaways were. We've got our weekend read, which is where we put kind of our longer features. When you have a little bit more time to sit and read something, you want to read those. We kind of curate that for you. And we've got a branding and design newsletter, which we also love. So, follow Labels and Labeling on LinkedIn. There's a lot of resources over there. Also pick up issue 3 for those who are coming to Labelexpo Europe. Pick up the next issue of the magazine, going to press next week. So it'll be available at the show, but really there's so much resource in there to help you plan your show.
Very cool.
You want to do some rapid fire questions, Chelsea? Or
I'm ready. Hit me, Randy.
Most guests end with that stuff, but all right. Favorite brand?
Favorite brand? I kind of think maybe this is lame, but Coca-Cola. I love Coca-Cola. I think not just because soda, right? Who cares? But I just think that they do so many cool things on marketing. Yeah, you like the orange soda, don't you, Randy? Yeah, right?
Big Coke fan. I'm like Nathan. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah.
Was that his answer? Is that what he said too? But yeah, so I just think they're always pushing the envelope when it comes to marketing, and they're using their labels. Do you remember a couple of years ago they had that label where you pulled a little piece of it, the label, and it turned into a Christmas bow? Yes, It was so cool. I mean, and the engineering that has to go in that. So I would say Coca-Cola just for that. I just think they're always kind of on the cutting edge of doing some really cool stuff.
Agree with that. What about on the opposite end of the spectrum? Least favorite?
Spirit Airlines. Next question. No.
No one said that yet. That's a really good one.
I have another one. Can we also talk about the HBO rebrand? I mean, why would you go to Max? What is Max? Everyone's still calling it HBO. Now it's HBO Max. Anyway, that's another one.
Cinemax and then why would you? Yeah, that's a good point. That was a disaster.
Yeah, that one didn't make
money they spent, the consulting agency to be it was don't quote me on this, but it was millions of dollars.
Really?
We should switch. And then they paid millions of dollars again, we should switch back.
Right. I was why would you take this legacy thing? And then so anyway, that would be, but also Spirit Airlines. I mean, come on. I don't know if they're going to see this podcast, but Lord, I hope so.
We'll tag them.
Spirit Airlines. Oh my God, please no, I'll end up on a no-fly list or something. But,
they are, they are the worst.
Even the colors, the yellow and it's just offensive. And the fact that they just cancel flights left and right. And then they're just
they're kind of known for it.
Yeah.
They're they just own it. I haven't flown them in years and years and years. I mean, it's got to have been 10 years and they were terrible back then.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I refuse to fly it though, right? Because you've had too many bad experiences, and it's
I'll walk first.
Yeah, I'm taking the Greyhound before I get on that airline, right?
No kidding.
Oh my gosh! What about the best business book, or not business, but any book you've read recently?
Yeah,
you'd recommend to people.
Well, oh man, I've been reading so much this summer, it's just been a good summer for that. Business book, though, I think everyone could read that I always recommend to people on my team is a book called The Culture Map by a woman called Erin Meyer, who I actually think spoke at a D-Scoop or something recently, spoke at an industry event. But basically, if you are doing business internationally, you should read this book because it just tells how people culturally, how they respond to compliments, how they negotiate, how they make decisions, that sort of thing. And it's not necessarily like leaning into stereotypes, but it's just like understanding those cultural differences. So if you're doing business internationally, I think that is one to really, I would highly recommend the culture map.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had read one a while back called The Culture Code.
Oh.
But that must be at least 15 years old, but I wonder if it's similar. Anyway, I'll check it out. And last one, special one for you, Chelsea. Best true crime podcast that you're into lately. We need to know. This is the good stuff.
Oh my God. People are going to think I'm a freak. Like,
The people what they want.
Oh, okay. So the only podcast I've really been listening to lately is Unpacking the Brand. I have to be honest.
we can have a true crime episode. Yeah, the internet sleuths, we'll figure something out.
Bring me back. I can talk about that. I got plenty of cases in the well. But no, I've been watching too, like this, it's even hard to recommend, but the Idaho 4, that case of those poor.
The Brian Koberger, is that his name?
Yeah. And that's a hard one to watch because it's just so gut wrenching and so sad. But it's, those 4 university students who were, terrible. That one or another one on Max HBO that I just started called The Yogurt Shop Murders. That one just started on Sunday. So that one's kind of another one that's really sad. Yeah. Anyway, Randy, people are going to think I'm a freak.
People are secretly interested in things like true crime and serial killers. Sure. It's I read that, what was the show on Netflix? It was 2 years. It was like the FBI. They were researching serial killers. It might come back as either a season 3 or a movie.
Mindhunter?
Mindhunter, yes.
It's good.
So if that comes back, PTO, I'm watching that,
Don't call me. Do not disturb.
Right, yep.
Yeah.
Busy signal.
No, it's funny
we'll see.
When I was a crime reporter, I couldn't watch that stuff because it was like too much. You're dealing with it all day at work, with cases and things, and you're dealing with it. It was too close to home. So, So then when I left that, I've just been full into true crime. That's funny.
Love it. Well, I think that covers it for today, I think, right, Ken? Chelsea, you've been awesome. I think we'll definitely have you on again. Who knows, certainly before Chicago, but maybe even before then. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. And honestly, I'm not just gassing you up. I have been enjoying the listen to the podcast. It's just fun to be kind of a fly on the wall for these like industry titans and what they think about and what they care about.
Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking the Brand. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, we'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about business, branding, and innovation.